Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of the Hearts of Men podcast hosted by the community. We're your host of this evening conversation. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach, and I am also joined by my brother up top, brother Garfield Martin. My brother up top, Mr. Roland Walker, also known as Poor Man's Dr. Phil or Mr. Shift Happen. And below us, we have our other brother, Mr. Garfield Martin, the Uncle Junior himself, also known as the Consistency Coach. Gentlemen, how are you doing on this beautiful Friday evening?
Man, I'm good, man. Being good. Just sliding into the house. Had dance today, school dance today. So
but they're doing the two-step.
No. Taking pictures.
Chaperone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. The weather, I think this one of the first days we done had where it didn't rain. Because it's been raining heavily in this area.
Yeah. Y'all keep sending that mess this direction, man. Y'all need to cut that out.
It's raining now.
Yeah. Chris will be joining us here shortly once his computer starts acting right. So we will look forward to welcoming that brother with us. As always, it is an honor to share in conversation with the members of the panel, but it is equally important for me to announce the appreciation that we have for those who actually join us on Friday evenings in the chat. So that being said, I want to make sure that I call you guys by name because we greatly appreciate you because we know that you could be any place else, but you're here with us on a Friday night and we do not take that lightly. So that said, good evening, Michelle Ray, Nick D, Crystal Everett, N. Ellis, Miss Bernadette Simmons. Good to see you. Lisa Keys, Miss Uncle Junior herself. Good to see you. Deshelle. Just want to make sure I said it. I know your name.
Yeah.
Adrian Walter, good to see you. And listen, for anybody else who has not gotten in the chat and just announce yourself, by all means, please do so. Because like I said, we like to celebrate you for being here. Also, if this is your first time joining us on a Friday evening and you're on YouTube, look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and locate the YouTube emblem. Put your cursor over that and then click it. And click the subscribe button, but please do not forget to click the notification button as well. Don't just click the button, click the drop down beside the button and select all. That way you know every time that we go live on this channel. Now, as we get ready to get started, I want to do the disclaimer and get it out the way, right? Because again, this is the Empowering Perspective community, which simply means that we welcome and we value everybody's perspective. because we believe here that we are subject matter experts of our own perspective. So therefore, welcome everybody's thoughts. Put them in the chats. Tell us what you think. Tell us how you believe that these concepts, these topics, whatever. And please, please, please ask questions. Y'all know I would derail a whole show for the right question. So that being said, we're going to dive into this evening's conversation. Unless you gentlemen have anything else you want to touch on before we dive into it. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Well, let's get into it then. Welcome to our transformative journey on overcoming your biggest enemy, yourself. In today's special episode, we dive deep into the everyday struggles we face with our inner critics and how we can shift from self-doubt to self-improvement. Each of us has moments of feeling like our own worst enemy. But what if we could turn that around and become our best ally? Throughout this discussion, we'll explore crucial strategies from identifying the limiting voices in our heads to embracing a mindset that welcomes growth and resilience. Our panel will share their personal stories and breakthroughs, providing you with the practical advice and real-life inspiration that you can apply directly to your own life. And here's the best part. Stick with us to the end of this video and you'll receive a free downloadable guide packed with additional insights and exercises designed to help you accelerate your journey towards mastering your inner challenges. This guide is a game changer, exclusive to our viewers and a valuable tool for anyone serious about personal transformation. So get ready to challenge your perspective, ignite your motivation, and unlock a new level of self-compassion and understanding. Let's start this journey together, and remember, the path to overcoming your biggest enemy starts right here, right now. Again, watch until the end, claim your free gift. It's just what you need to keep the momentum going. So, gentlemen, I kind of want to start off in the first area that we're going to talk about is called identifying your inner critic. Now, first and foremost, I want to ask you guys a question as it pertains to inner critic. When it comes down to the concept or the notion of your inner critic, what do you think that means? Like in your own words, like what is an inner critic?
I think the inner critic is the person inside you who gives you a different look or different opinion, or the person who kind of challenges you. You know, in a sense, it kind of seems like it's a negative thing, you know, when you look at the word critic, but I don't necessarily think it can be negative, but I also think it could just be what it is. You know what I mean? And I think just your inner critic is that voice inside of your head, just be like, look, bro, you know what? You probably could have did a little bit better. You probably could have read a little bit longer. You probably, you could have did one more rep. You know what I mean? So it's that person on the inside of your brain who is challenging you to do better.
I would say that inner voice inside of all of us that wants perfection and strives for perfection, but always seems to point out what went wrong and focus on those things rather than focus on the positives of what went right and what we can just do better. I think the inner critic may be that little voice that says, oh, why didn't I do this? I was speaking and I should have said that. And instead of being an encourager, which some of us may think we're encouraging, but it's almost a self-deprecating behavior towards what we've accomplished versus looking at it and say, man, I did the thing, trying to remain humble.
First things first, greetings. My apologies for my tardiness. My computer was doing this thing and it just wouldn't stop. So I just had to let it run its course. To answer this question, I guess I'll speak from personal experience. Sometimes the inner critic is the voice in the back of your head telling you, you know better. Like, you know better. Like, come on, man. You know you should have did this, or you know you shouldn't have done that, or you know you should have said something then, or you, like Unc said, you know you had like 1 or 2 more reps and you just stopped. You know better. Come on, man. What's going on? You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes the inner critic is that. At least that's how it has been recently. Now, to agree with Roland, sometimes the inner critic is that thing in the back of your head saying, man, trying to find everything wrong with what you're doing. You see what I'm saying? So I see it from both sides.
Yeah, so I think for the sake of this conversation, that's the direction we're going to go with it, right? So it is the internal voice that judges, criticizes, or demeans a person, regardless of how they're doing or whatever challenges they face. And this voice might echo societal standards, parental expectations, or personal beliefs about how one should be. And it often focuses on weaknesses, faults, and failures. Now, I kind of gave one example just now, or a couple of examples really. But from your perspective, like when you look at the inner critic, and we're going to kind of ask you to share and be transparent here in a minute. But where do these voices come from? Like, what does it sound like? Is there consistency to it? Like, if you could kind of just make it make sense, what does it sound like?
For me, I hear my grandmother because she was the one that raised me. She was the one that always tried to instruct me in the ways I should go. And so when I do something, I'm always trying to live up to her standards, live up to what she said I ought to be doing and how I ought to live. So that inner critic sounds like her voice to me.
Hmm.
If we're speaking about actual people, then I would say my inner voice kind of sounds like David Goggins and Eric Thomas. So when I'm kind of off track or when I'm not like performing or being consistent, those are the voices that are talking to me and be like, you know, it's still your set, one more rep, you know what I mean? You ain't done yet, go hard, stay hard, all these different things. Those are the voices I hear. But I think if we're not talking about a person, then I also want to talk about, I think that it could be information that we have received and where we want to go. So it's like if we're in high school and we want to be a better basketball player, it's like that comparison, that future comparison, or that comparison or to that future self, or the other information that you have been receiving thus far in your life.
My inner critic sounds like me. My inner critic sounds like me talking to me about what I'm doing. My inner critic is, and a lot of times my inner critic and my comfort zone are the same thing, because my inner critic is telling me to stop doing what I'm doing and go back to being comfortable. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, but I hear my own voice in the back of my head. I don't worry. I used to hear the dude my mom married, but I saw how his life turned out, and then I'm like, man, why should I shouldn't have even cared about what this dude thought. Like, he wasn't even living what he was talking. He was just yapping. He was just another one of these old heads who thought just because they was old, they had an opinion. Shut up. But for the most part, my inner critic sounds like me talking to me about things that either A, I'm not doing to the best of my ability, or B, that I'm doing different from the normal routine that my body is used to, and it's telling me to stop. You understand what I'm saying? If that makes any sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I am intrigued at the fact that you shared that it sounds like you, and it shows up to keep you in your comfort zone, because I think a lot of us deal with that and face that as well. Um, for me, it sounds like everything that I've heard in my lifespan that says that anybody like me can't do a thing. You shouldn't be able to do this. You shouldn't be able to do this. Or you have to be twice as smart, or you got to work twice as hard. So you'll hear me make reference to those a lot, because I think those are some great examples of the inner critic. So if I'm doing a thing, I would get to the point of even feeling like I shouldn't even be here. I shouldn't even be doing this thing or whatever. But I do like the point that you said, again, going back to it, that it is the voice that's trying to keep you in your comfort zone, because I think we all experience that to some degree. Um, Moving forward, and as you guys are listening to this, wherever you are, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on X or YouTube, go ahead and hit the like button, because I think as you're seeing that we're about to unpack a conversation that is going to be um, pretty doggone awesome. So the first question I have for you gentlemen to kind of spearhead this, how does or do, this typo, please forgive me, how does or do your inner critic voice differs from your true self?
A lot of times they differ in the information that you get, right? So a lot of times, just speaking from personal experience, especially when I was really, really going through my journey to find my purpose in life a few years ago, I really heard a bunch of voices telling me to go forward and keep trying. But I also heard that voice to say, bro, you retired. You don't need to do this. Like, why are you doing it? You know what I mean? So I had to make a decision and decide whose voice I was going to listen to. So I just think, just at a surface level, the differences or how they differ from your true self is the information that you hear inside of your head.
I think mine would be more militant and more structured because whereas I may want to just be lax and just chill, that inner voice to me wants to push, wants to grind, wants to move. It's always on the go. It's almost a drill sergeant mentality versus where I'm lax, I'm chilling. But then it's that inner voice say you ain't where you need to be. It's like, the motivator, like he was Unc was talking about what's the name? Eric Thomas. I hear stuff like that because it's like, dude, you got something to do, you got some more. So whereas me, I'll be like, man, I'm chilling. My feet hurt. I'm making excuses. And the voice saying, everybody got excuses just like everybody got that other thing.
I'm going to say mine is the same, but mine is also different. Mine is the same because my inner voice and my true self, they're both angry. Seriously, they are both angry. My inner critic is angry for a different reason and my true self is angry. So they're the same as far as that aspect goes, but they're different in the way that I'm started like I said before, like when I logic my way through things, a lot of things weights get lifted. So when I hear my inner critic talking, it's more along the lines of, all right, you telling me everything that is wrong with what I'm doing. So let me reverse engineer that. And let me figure out either A, where I went wrong, or B, let me do the opposite. You telling me everything that I'm doing is wrong. All right, let me do what's right. So that way you shut up.
So I like it, but I want to kind of put this out there just to make sure that everybody is tracking the inner critic. So the inner critic, again, is a voice that judges and criticizes and demeans you. It's not one to motivate you. So ideally, if we're hearing a voice that is motivating us and trying to push us outside of our comfort zone, that's not the inner critic. The inner critic is the one that's telling you, say, hey, you're not good enough to do this. Like you're thinking that you can actually compete against these people. Like, look at those people. Look at what they got. Look at their accolades and so forth and so on. Like you can't compete against that. Why are you even doing that? So for me, my true voice, and for those people who really know me, is like all gas, no brakes. Like from sun up to sundown, I'm constantly doing something. And the people who know me say, hey man, you need to slow down, you need to take a rest, you need to take a nap. Like my mother had to tell me that today. Like you need to go to sleep. So that's my inner voice. That's my true self, because it's always wanting to do something. It's always wanting to make sure it's always something to be done. But then the inner critic, like, don't worry about it. It'll get done. Like, don't even think about it. Like, you know what? It is what it is. Just don't even prepare for a Friday night show. Just show up and y'all just, figure your way out through it. And so in essence, the inner critic is not the voice that's going to serve you to where you can become the best version of yourself. The inner critic is the voice that actually tells you that you're not deserving, that you are not worthy of this or whatever that looks like. Oh, you got that look on your face.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Mr. Ice Grill over there.
Yeah, I'm thinking. It seems like it's layers to it. That's what I'm understanding. Because I think sometimes criticism can be good. You know, I mean, sometimes criticism can open our eyes up to things and say, look, bro, you really ain't doing enough. You know what I mean? And like if I wrote a paper and Roland being the scholar that he is, I wrote a paper on something he's very knowledgeable and familiar with, right? And then he read the paper and he criticized it, right? I would feel I wouldn't feel some type of way about it, but now I have an opportunity to go back and redo it or understand what I did wrong, and it can push me forward. So, I'm still trying to piece all this together, but that's just kind of what I was thinking is that I know, I'm not necessarily that I misspoke, but now I have a better understanding, and I'm okay with adjusting or changing my opinion based off new information. So maybe what I said earlier about it kind of motivating may not have been the right thing. You know, I think that the criticism piece does fit along the lines of more about, as I've listened to what everybody said. So now, I think I've kind of adjusted my thought process. So now I'm just trying to piece everything together as we continue on with the conversation.
You're good. You're just 45 minutes ahead of us right now. That's all. Yeah,
Okay.
'cause you're talking about criticism from the perspective of a growth mindset. I haven't gotten there yet. So that's why I
Okay.
keep trying to pull y'all back. I don't want to get to the growth mindset yet.
But
All right.
see,
We need to understand what the inner critic is first.
Okay.
So for you, I get it. For people who understand growth mindset and how to take something that appears to be negative and turn it into a positive, yeah. So we got that part. But there are people out there who still struggle with negativity, and then they live life through what I tend to call a negativity bias. So everything, if they can, they will find the negative side of the moon and they will focus on that, as opposed to trying to find a way to flip it around so they can work in their favor.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So
Makes
you're good. We just ain't got that far yet. We
Okay.
get
All right. All right.
Now, I like that example because that light switch went off because when tying in what Coach said and what Unc said, so the inner critic will not push me to want to do better or to make the paper better, but to say you shouldn't be writing in the first place. You too dumb to be doing this. It will downplay everything that you're doing and criticize it as if you're not worthy of even putting pen to paper, writing anything, versus encouraging you to do better.
Downplay versus encourage. Got it.
absolutely. What you thinking, Chris?
I'm in the same boat with Unc. I would rather allow this conversation to progress before I start asking questions, because I was kind of gonna go down the rabbit hole that Unc was about to go down. Like,
Gotcha.
could the inner critic be negative but also constructive?
Eventually, sure. But again, we ain't got there yet.
Okay.
have-
see,
we haven't-
see,
Right. That's what I'm saying. Not yet. We ain't got there yet. You can't.
that's why I was chilling.
Right. Some people gotta learn to construct it. That's why it's called constructive. Like you gotta build it, because the raw information will literally have people focus on that. And you can hear it when you talk to people, because when you talk to them, they're never doing good. Oh, I'm making it, it's a day, or whatever that looks like. So the inner critic will have you looking at everything through a lens of negativity. And especially when you start looking at what you're doing and how you're showing up in time and space, right? It will have you questioning your abilities. Now, to that point, there's some people that are asking questions as it pertains to last week's conversation. So if you don't mind, bring up, there you go. So your inner critic can manifest itself as imposter syndrome. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I think that could be an element of it, because your inner critic is telling you everything that's wrong with you. You understand what I'm saying? And the way that you are living might not be the same thing as what your inner critic is telling you that's wrong with you, but it's your inner critic. It's the voice in your head that's always in your head. So there's always going to be a piece. It's like, man, is this voice in my head right? Like, am I really faking the funk like that? Like, am I really faking the funk like that? Or have I not told this voice to shut up long enough to actually see that I've gone farther than that I'm giving myself credit for? So yeah, I would say yeah.
I would say on the surface level, yes, but based off of last week's conversation was kind of new to me. And then I'm puzzling or navigating my way through this conversation. On the surface, I'm going to say yes, based off of based off the understanding that I have currently. But I don't have enough information to elaborate on my yes. But I would just say off the surface, yes.
But when I read it in the comments, I was thinking, yeah, because I was even looking at it earlier from last week. I was looking at it, and when you're looking at somebody who has the traits of the imposter syndrome, you're looking at somebody who has internally told themselves that they aren't something, so they continue to strive to be something that they don't even think they can accomplish. Whereas with this one, it's like your internal nature is telling you you don't deserve it. So you might as well quit. Whereas their imposter syndrome, they trying to continue. Hey, I got to do it all by myself. If I'm the only one going to do it, I got to do it. So it's like they're striving to be something that they don't even think they deserve.
Disclaimer. Unc, your point was really, really great when you said that you don't have enough information about this to actually formulate an opinion. So I'm going to put a disclaimer out there too. Since my inner critic is me and my own voice, I'm speaking as if I'm talking about the inner critic as if it's me, if that makes any sense. And I know me, at least for the most part. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Very well. I like it. I would have to agree with everyone's initial assessment. It can reveal or it can manifest itself in us as imposter syndrome if left unchecked, right? And so a lot of times we find ourselves in space accomplishing a thing, but yet the inner voice in us will start questioning the fact that, we accomplished that thing. Like case in point, if you haven't seen Kevin Hart's he received I can't remember what it's called. It's like some type of lifetime achievement award with Mark Twain. He received the Mark Twain award, and if you've seen it, it's actually pretty good. But it's like all of the information that everybody was sharing about him kind of validated him being there. And then when he came out, he didn't validate himself being there. He talked about his support group, right? So the people who supported him, things of that nature, which I think is awesome because when they talked about his life story, like he came from poverty, he had nothing, so forth and so on. So all signs did not necessarily point to him accomplishing that. So if the inner critic in him had won, then he never would have gotten to the point of having that positive mindset to move him out of where he was to get to where he needed to get to the point of achieving this award. So in this particular scenario, even if he did make any major accomplishment, the inner critic in him would question like, man, you really didn't do anything to get this. You didn't deserve, like they only giving it to you because, you from Philly and you short and you dark skinned, stuff like that. And so you'll really start questioning your ability based upon it. And then it can manifest itself as imposter syndrome because you don't really think that you're deserving of a thing. So I think that's a great point. And thank you for tying last week's conversation into this week's conversation. Awesome. So the inner critic can be aired. It absolutely is aired on the side of negativity. So yes, absolutely. Great points. Okay, let's kind of jump into the next question here as we start to unpack this. In what ways has your inner critic, now we're talking specifically to you, in what ways has your inner critic shaped your self-image over the years?
I guess I'll jump on the grenade first. I can definitely say that, I changed a lot in who I was just going through a few years ago, like I mentioned earlier, my journey to find out who I was as a man and figure out what my purpose was. So there was definitely a lot of thoughts that went on doing then. There was a lot of criticism that went on, but I would say probably um All right. So when I went through high school, I was a CD student. In 2022, just right around 2 years ago, um I completed my master's degree. And up until less than a year ago, I was still telling everybody that I was a CD student. Now, when I went through my associate's degree, I graduated with a 3.6. When I went to my bachelor's, I graduated with a 3.4. And when I graduated with my master's, I graduated with a 3.2. Yes, I gradually went down. But a 3.2, a 3.4, and a 3.6 is a B average. So even though I had completed my master's and completed 3 degrees, the inner critic in me was still telling me and telling everybody else and telling the world that I was a CD student because that's who I was when I was in high school. So just from personal experience, you know, my inner critic kind of shaped my self-image and something about me because my inner critic kept me being a CD student until within the last year, so that's what that's where I want to start with this question.
Well, since my inner critic sounds like me, my inner critic, I used to have a really, really negative self image about myself because of my inner critic. But like I said, sometimes you have to tell that inner critic to shut up because I'm not that person. You know what I'm saying? You're criticizing everything that I've done, but you're not looking at how far I've come, and I'm looking at how far I come. So you got to shut up right now because I got to go here. Understand what I'm saying? So I would say that my inner critic is currently shaping my self image because the more I tell it to shut up, the more I focus on the progression that I'm having, if that makes any sense.
That's a hard question. I think if I'm saying my inner critic early on, I think it always made me look back at my upbringing and made me look back where I was from, meager means and having 2 kids before 16 or by 16. And it always made me look at the negative side of life that I had to go through because I thought that's what I needed to push me forward. But so at any time I did something wrong, I say, well, I'm from Detroit and I'm from this place. And I always focus on the negative. Like, okay, I gave myself excuses for the BS that I would do, anything. And I think over the years, I had to learn to not just navigate through that, but realize that there takes a level of emotional intelligence to get beyond that. And I don't know if that's where we're going, but that's what I had to do to get past holding myself back, allowing that critic in me to say, dude, you ain't worth that. You just another dude from Detroit or whatever, whatever. So my whole outlook was negative. That's why I always try to be positive. I always try to, like, if I find myself being a certain way, or I could hear somebody say, hey, you supposed to, you this, that, and the other, because it reminds me, like, dude, come on now. Because even everybody has that little chip on their shoulder that says to go forward. But some of us, we look at that chip as a mantle and allow it to hold us back. And we're the ones just hiding behind it.
I greatly appreciate everybody's transparency. I would say it's like two versions of me sitting in this chair. And one version, like I said, is all gas, no brakes. Go, 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 go. Do the best you can right now. Help as many people as you possibly can. Then the other version is sitting here like, who do you think you is? Like, what makes you think they even want your help? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would they even listen to you anyway? You know what I'm saying? Like, look where you came from. Look at, you having these conversations. When you look back, well, where did they come from? Like, How do they validate the fact that you can have these conversations? So it's like, I believe, in my opinion, when you look at it, and again, I come from a single parent home. I'm not going to lie about that. My mother and my father separated when I was 3 years old in Heidelberg, Germany. So who are you to be talking to people about relationships and things of that nature? You divorced. You know what I'm saying? You were married for 14 years, they got a divorce. So who are you? So that's where my inner critic's at. My inner critic is the one that is in constant competition with the true version of me that is actually pushing and striving and trying to help as many people as you possibly can. But then the other side is like, yep, so where's the verification? Like, like, look over your life history, look over your parents' history. Like, nobody, when you go and look, like, nobody has given you any pathway to validate or verify you being to where you are. So it's always like a yin and a yang thing, if you will. Like, one version is like, yep, full steam ahead, keep going, keep going, keep going. But the other version is like, yeah, but. And so I think that, and I can only speak for myself, I can't speak for anybody else. Right? I think that's the thing, that if I say that if any version that I struggle with, I struggle with that. I struggle with the constant, and it's not a constant thing these days, but it's a constant negative voice that say, hey, that's enough. You can stop right now. You ain't got to do that. Stop right there. You're good. Don't give them nothing else. They got it. They got everything they need. Well, stop. That's enough. Why are you doing so many shows in 1 week? So it's all that's constantly going on. And to me, I think when we are, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a thing to where you constantly identify, because somebody said it earlier, that it kind of gives you a measuring stick to go off of once we kind of turn that over. So I love it. And thank you guys for sharing your versions of this particular question. Now, as we're going to keep pressing forward, and thank you guys for all the information that you're putting in the chat. I'm seeing it, I'm reading it. And again, we're going to bring some of those things up as we press forward. Now we're diving into challenging what is called limiting beliefs. Now, don't want to insult anybody's intelligence here, but at the end of the day, when we start talking about limiting beliefs, it is your belief in yourself, your belief in your ability that has a cap on it. So I want to make sure I'm saying that. So when it comes down to limiting, the questions under challenging your limiting belief, the first question is, what is one limiting belief that you've held about yourself for a long time?
Ain't nobody got nothing.
I heard it might go up. I
Why
think
did
for me, I think I would say Coach coming deep. Coach trying to act like we on Oprah couch this week. Maybe but I think a limiting belief for me would be, it's almost like a fear of success, a fear of accomplishment. It's like when I get close, it's like something tells me don't do it. You can't do it. It's like I hold myself back, and then I will use like words like, or phrases like, I'm an idea guy. I don't put it, I don't put it to work. I just come up with the ideas, and I will limit myself from accomplishing things because of an internal fear of what success may bring.
I'm going to say my one limiting belief is the imposter syndrome. It's like, I feel like I don't deserve what I'm about to go get, even though the divine creator put it in my head to go get it. Like, okay, he put this big thing in my head, but do I really deserve it? And I tell that I have to. Here's the part about the inner critic that people think is easy, and it's not. I have to tell my inner critic every morning to shut up. Like, seriously. Like, come on, man. I just woke up, man. Shut up real quick. Just shut up. So Yeah, man. It's like, yeah, that one limiting belief, like I don't deserve and I shouldn't be the guy doing it, if that makes any sense.
Man, this is a this is a this is a doozy. And I think the challenge for me right now, and I kind of mentioned one earlier, I had that belief that I was, still a CD student after all these years, even though, the proof, even though the proof was in the degrees or whatever like that. But, you know, ever since I've, went through this journey and stuff like that, I don't really have I can't think of any limiting beliefs that I have right now. Now there may be some as we go along the conversation, or you know, maybe Shale, maybe my wife, she watching. So if you think I got one, maybe you hear me comment or say something, then put it in the chat. But I think right now I can't think of one right off. I can't think of one right now, and I think a lot of it is because of the journey and stuff that I went through, and now I've taken off so many different limits. Like there's nothing that I can't do. You know what I'm saying? So right now, um, I'm still thinking.
So I know all of you are awesome right now, but we ain't talking about the you for today. We're
Okay.
talking about we're talking about the person that you had to grow to,
Yeah.
right? So that's why it says like held about yourself for a long time. It's not saying that you currently hold it. It's
Mhm.
just something that you held for a long period of time that you had to
Yeah.
overcome. We know everybody here awesome.
No, I ain't awesome. I've just I've had a different mindset for so long, and I don't necessarily revisit that old me on a regular basis. So, some of the things that, used to limit me in life, I don't think about those things anymore. So that's kind of the challenge for me. So give me a moment, come back to me, and I'm sure I can figure out something, especially think about these army days.
Yeah, I would say for me, it was everything external. Like I said, I'm all every bit of 5'8", dark skin. And if you remember back in the days, I joke about this now, right? But if you remember back in the days, that wasn't the thing to be. Dark skin wasn't the thing to be. Dark skin, short wasn't the thing to be. Probably still ain't the thing to be to this day, right? But who cares? But that was my thing because of the outward appearance. I would never be the one that would be selected to be here. I would never be the one that would be selected to be here. It's almost like you going back into the Bible and you're looking for the next king, and nobody ever thought David would be the king because he didn't look the part. And that was kind of like my issue. Not that I was looking to be king or anything of that nature, but I'm just saying I didn't look the part. And so even when you look at the army, like Soldier of Fortune, those who be on the magazine cover, they're like 6'4" and tall stature, whatever. Like, not me. In parades, I'm the dude all the way in the back because we get set up for parades by height. So if you're taller than the man in front of you, move forward. So by the time it's all over said and done with, I'm in the back corner where nobody can see. And I'm telling you, like that was something that stuck with me for a long period of time because it seemed as though for anybody who was significant, they had to be tall. So like most general officers in the army was like over 6 feet tall, most of them. So it was always like a catalyst that was talking about height. There was always something that went along with appearance. And again, when I had really stopped and looked at it, I'm like, I was not that guy. So that was part of my limiting belief that I held for a very long period of time. Because again, even with, and I'm just being transparent, even if you were dark skinned, you would automatically get the moniker of being ugly. Not whatever. It's just because you're dark skinned. And so that was something like, and going back, you guys know this, in our community, colorism is a thing. So it was not just, what, racist comments that you would encounter, but you will also get that within our community. So I held that with me for a very long time. I got it. I'm just being transparent. It is what it is. We had, and I don't see it as much these days, but we have a serious problem in our community about skin color. And we don't want to admit it, but it still exists today.
All right, I got it. Shell text me. I told her to put it in the chat, but she might not have got it yet. Um, Well, no, she just texted me back right now. So she said, for me, is that a limiting belief is that I never have enough time. And I agree with her. That is a limiting belief for me, because at the end of the day, we all have, the same 24 hours in a day. But I think that sometimes it has affected my inability to prioritize certain things. So definitely for me, now that she said it, I'm definitely going to gnaw on it a little bit more, but it is right. That is a limiting belief for me right now, is that I never have enough time.
See, I like where Coach went, because I think I was on the opposite side of that spectrum, where I was always told you look like this and and I always hated it. I looked at it like, man, it's a gift and a curse, because when you get older, oh, you get the ladies, but people perceive you a certain way. People perceive, quote unquote, when they call you pretty boy, they consider you weaker. They consider you soft. So that was always something I always fought against, and I never wanted to be there. I always want to, like, oh, you don't get your hands dirty. I went to school for auto mechanics, and you don't do this, because in my head, if they deem me this, they deem me a pushover. So I never want. That was one of those limited things. Like, nah, I can't be that. I mean, people will say stuff, but I always looked at it as a negative. It was never a positive for me, because in the back of my head, I'm looking at it like you trying to almost demean me and call me soft or some other terms that I would use.
Yep, absolutely. I do remember those as well. So now I'm pressing forward, and again, keeping that same energy. In what ways do you think our culture or society, and I already gave my example, right? That's really what my answer is. In what ways do you think our culture or society contributes to the formation of limiting beliefs?
Yeah, go, Chris. Go.
No, I just read the private chat. Like, y'all have no sense. I absolutely love it here. Um, I'm gonna say that our culture contributes to limiting beliefs because our culture itself has a limiting belief to it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, our culture itself is like, we're always at the bottom. We can't do this, we can't do that. If we see somebody doing it, they not like us. We it's almost like the inner critic, and it's like a lot of people's inner critic are the same, because they all look for the bad stuff. And when you constantly dealing with the bad stuff, you really can't you really don't believe that you can do what you set out to do, or you listening to people that can't do what the divine creator put in your head because they can't do it. And since they can't do it, you can't do it too. Like, there's so many facets to this. I think it's goofy, but I think, yeah, society in itself contributes to that, because society in itself is full of limiting beliefs as it is, just based on our perception as a whole.
What is one of them? If you can think of one. Because that's kind of sort of where I was going to go to. Like, I totally understand everything you're saying.
It's like, if the culture is constantly telling you you can't do something, and all you see is the culture, then at a subconscious level, you're going to believe it. Like, I would say one limiting belief is that we I don't know how to say this without running the risk of Coach's channel getting torn down, and I'm trying my hardest to you know what, come back to me. I have to find a way to formulate this without it being a detriment to the channel.
I think when it comes to what's considered our culture, anytime anything happens with finance, when it comes with us pooling our resources together, we have limiting beliefs in our people that they're gonna treat us right, that they're gonna do right by us. but we'll go and get the lawyer with the Stein name, and or the, you know, that's all you see on Bernstein, Stein, all you see them all on TV, the lawyers, the doctors, and everything. So you trust people that don't look like you. And if somebody's looking like you and they come up and they talking financial piece or anything like that, you look at them like, oh, how are they trying to get over on us? And it got to be a scam in there somewhere. They trying to steal your money, because we have been taught that culturally, and we've seen it in our communities. So we just group everyone together. So that's one of the things I think that our society, believes.
You led me to where I was gonna go. Like, since we're speaking culture, I'm gonna speak Black culture. And for some strange reason, in Black culture, we can't trust Black people to do things like that. You understand what I'm saying? Because how dare you be smart enough to do that? One, you know what I'm saying? And two, how do I know that you're not getting over on me? And that's another limiting belief, that every Black person that you come across is going to try to get over on you. The third one is that we can't work together. When you see 4 men on a platform every Friday at 8 o'clock talking like men, shut up.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. I'm agreeing, and I appreciate you guys. Hey, make sure y'all go sign up for Make Money Master 2024. Listen, I couldn't help it, man. Y'all set the conditions. I'm agreeing with Roland. You kind of went exactly where I was going, to go. I think we believe wholeheartedly, like I will use like our former president. I believe if one person make it, we believe that that one person is supposed to be our savior. And so that person is supposed to do everything in their power to save our community. But then we're not doing anything to save ourselves. Like, it was not his job to rescue the entire Black race. That's just lunacy. That doesn't even pass a common sense test, right? Plus, you also got to realize that he has, Congress that he was fighting against as well. And him being a Democrat, and you got to realize the Republicans are like, no, we ain't having that. And so if I recall correctly, the Republicans had the seat in the Congress at that point in time. So he had to fight tooth and nail. So at the end of the day, when we have one person that makes it, one person that makes $1 million, one person that becomes the president of the United States, one person that owns a huge company and all that other stuff, we believe that it's that person's responsibility to rescue and save the entire race, the entire culture. And that's the issue that we run into. And we continue to have the preponderance of our conversation cycle around limitations. It doesn't matter what the limitations about, whether it's about money, whether it's about relationships, whether it's about who we believe the God is. It's all of those things, all based upon limitations. And we impose those limitations on ourselves. And a lot of times it just recycle from generation to generation to generation to generation. Why? Because that's what you're raising them in. And when you raise your kids under that limitation, then you have now imposed your limitation on that child. And then that child got to find a way to overcome that limitation. And in most cases, it's not going to be found in that environment. It's not going to be found in that community. And God forbid, if they get a teacher that cares, then that teacher is probably going to have to end up working extra hours and doing a little extra work just to help that child overcome that limiting belief itself.
I'm glad you mentioned that. There was a teacher that went viral, like a dance teacher, who, she was Black. She was teaching Black girls how to dance, and she taught ballet, but the Black girls wanted to listen to Sexy Red, and she posted a video about it, and she caught backlash for it. You understand what I'm saying? Even Sexy Red was like, "Why don't you play the song and shut up?" Like, literally, that's literally what she tweeted. And I'm like, what? And the thing about it is we know better. I'm sorry, man. We're not this stupid. We're not this dumb. I refuse to believe it. I have too much respect for our community to think that we're dumb like this. I'm sorry. But I digress. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. I'm sorry.
I think they did the same thing with Deion Sanders. They tried to make Deion the coach of all coaches for black people. They call Colorado the HBCU
Yeah,
and all that other stuff because a lot
I
of
remember
people
that too.
there. And he did his part for his team or whatever he was doing for them. And because I would always say there are many coaches out here that are doing what Deion does. They just don't have the notoriety and the people just giving them cash. But you had people piling big cash loads of money to Colorado who didn't need the money. And that's why I'm like, oh, you're not helping the community. You're helping Colorado, which you're going to have 85% of the black population on the team or one of the teams playing sports, but you're not helping the culture as a whole. So when it makes us feel good internally when we do stuff like that, that's high visibility. But when you do it for the mom and pop stores and those places, it's not big news. If things aren't big news, we don't support them. We don't go out and do it. Like Coach is saying, he's saying, "Hey, I got this class coming up. You got to take this class." In my head, I'm like, "Dang, I got to go ahead and put in for that class because I can't sit up there and talk about Dave Ramsey and all these other people who I don't know and who have information that's been regurgitated. And I got my boy, my dog, my family who's putting on something, and I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna put in on it because that's Coach. I know just as much as him. No, see, and that's the mentality that we have, which holds us back, which keeps us at bay, and then we wonder why we can't get ahead. We can't get ahead because we're too busy looking at the next person, worried about, well, I don't want them to get further ahead than me. Hey, because I know if Coach gets ahead, somehow, some way, I'm getting put on that train because I'm supporting. I'm there, like, hey, what we got to do, and I got to support, not just because this ain't Deion, or this ain't the other guy with the gray beard that come on talking money. Hey, money matters and makes sense with whoever's putting out the information. And if I know somebody putting out the information that I actually know, have a relationship with, I got to push behind that person.
Man, I like that. So the question was, in what ways do you think our culture or society contributes to the formation of limiting beliefs? I am going to go with, since we kind of talked about a little bit, is um oppression. Now, I am not here to say that it doesn't exist or that it hasn't happened. I'm not here to say any of that. What I am here to say is that when that becomes your mindset and that limits you or keeps you from moving forward because you only focus on that, I think that's where it can be a negative thing. And that's where I think that's where it becomes the problem. Like I said, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that it didn't exist, but what I am saying that it can be a very limiting when people focus on that, because when you can say that, hey, I can't move forward and I can't start a business because I'm oppressed. I can't go to college because I'm oppressed. I can't start a podcast because I'm oppressed. You know what I mean? Versus saying, yes, I am oppressed. However, I am going to figure out a way to get past this, blah, blah, blah. Now I understand that everybody's situation is different, and I'm not here to call out anybody based off the situation or circumstance that they're going through in their life. But I am saying that this word right here, this word oppression, is a very limiting for a lot of people, and it has stopped a lot of people from moving to the next level.
I give you a perfect example of that. And I'm going right back to where I came from. I think a lot of times we raise our children through the lens of oppression. And what we end up doing is we'll say something, try to limit their potential by trying to force them to do things in a particular way that was similar to the way that we did it. So we're literally suppressing them, suppressing their growth potential by shooting down the ideas that they come up with, instead of supporting the ideas and actually help them along the things that they think that they want to do for their life. You don't know. Life is like a big old, like you gotta take risks. You gotta gamble on something, right? And so if we do not help them gamble on the thing that they want to gamble on, like how do you know they'll ever be successful at the thing? Like I don't care what it is they want to do. Like if you look at it on TV, on the radios, you know, in big business, there's always somebody who took a chance on something and they put all their eggs in the one basket. Well, you, mom, dad, you probably probably played it safe your entire life. But then your child want to just put it all on this thing. They want to put it all in this. But then you're shooting them down saying, hey, you can't do that. You have to do this. You can't do it this way. You have to do it this way. The issue is that they're tapping into something that you're unfamiliar with, and it's making you uncomfortable. And because it's making you uncomfortable, now you're getting them to suppress their dreams, and now you in turn are becoming the oppressor when it comes down to your child. So we got to make sure that we stop doing it. Like, do not continue to, you know, perpetuate the cycle. Teach them the lessons that you learn, but then allow them to take those lessons and then grow from there. So I think that is a huge part to go along with what Uncle Junior was just now saying. Any other thoughts before we press forward? No, good to go. Okay. Kendrick, good to see you, brother. That's one of my mentors from the John Maxwell team, man. Good to see him. He just don't know. I'll be watching him from a distance, real big on fitness. So if you Uncle Junior, you should know Kendrick. If you went to the IMC, he was probably the brother wearing the top hat. That he always wears one, man. So awesome guy. Yeah, awesome guy. Can we bring up Miss Verlene McCoy's comment at 2058, please? Can we do that? Can I kind of buy a moment to do that? Do you see it? Yes. This is the reason why we do this, and don't skip a beat. We do this every Friday night. We do this Saturdays as often as we possibly can because of comments like that. So thank you so much for that. We greatly appreciate I greatly appreciate your comment. I speak for me, but on behalf of these men, because I think I view it as a team, right? So we greatly appreciate those comments. And again, that I'm touched. Got to move on before I start crying. All right, next topic. Next topic. Listen, I believe the gateway to a growth mindset coming out of, you know, being swamped with the inner critic, it has to go through self-compassion. It must go through self-compassion. So that being said, how does your treatment of yourself differ from the way you treat others? Now, when I ask this question, I want you to kind of consider it from the perspective of a person who is like swamped with their inner critic, and they haven't figured out the pathway to go into a growth mindset. And then on the other side, right, what does it look like when that mentality changes?
How does your treatment of yourself differ from the way you treat others? That's a deep question.
I think sometimes I give myself an alibi, whereas I may not be so lenient when it comes to other people. I give myself yeah. So I think that when I experience something or see someone doing something, I have to remind myself, dude, you've been there. So you can't be so hard on people who aren't at a certain level or who may be striving to get to a certain place in life because you've been there. You've done that. You've been there. You got the t-shirt, but you got to remember that, yeah, you were there. So sometimes I hold myself to a different standard, maybe.
I will say there were times where I would neglect myself but I would be extremely giving of myself to everybody else. I would do for everybody else. If you needed something, if you wanted something, if you called me, especially in the military when it came to soldiers and stuff like that. Like I was anything that needed to be done, I was doing. I was taught in the military that NCO, especially E5s and E6s, those are the worker NCOs. That's where the rubber meets the road. So you guys are going to work harder than anybody else in the military. So I kind of took that to the heart. So I worked extremely hard, but I neglected my personal life. I neglected my self-care. So, as I'm looking back to, those years when I was in the military, I saw a lot of treatment to myself was substandard or subpar compared to how I treated other people.
I would say I give other people way too much grace, and I don't give myself enough. I think that's where I would go. Like, since we're talking about inner critic and we're talking about self, my inner critic goes off in my head all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to be hard on myself because my inner critic is always telling me all of the stuff all of the bad stuff. But if I'm dealing with somebody or if I have people around me and I hear what they say or I see what they do, even though in the back of my brain, I'm saying, man, you know better, I still got to give them grace. But as far as me, like, I know better. So I can't really give myself grace if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do because my inner critic is going to remind me that I know better, if that makes any sense.
And that's bass backwards. You know what I mean? To a sense.
Yeah.
However, I remember like that's how I used to be. So like I get it. Like I understand you 100%. Like I am so glad I'm not there. I'm not making it about me or anything like that. I totally understand your point, and I'm only saying it because with continued time and effort and working on yourself, there's a totally other side of it to whereas you will get to a point to where you understand that focusing and making sure that you are taken care of allows you to be able to give more to other people. Even more than what you're doing now. Even the amount of grace that you're giving people now, when you start doing it for yourself, it's just, man, it's a game changer, man.
But see, in my brain, I also have to understand the difference between giving myself grace and not doing what I'm supposed to do and giving myself an excuse, if that makes any sense. I'm just now learning. Yeah, I'm just now like actually starting to compartmentalize and understand the difference between, okay, you broke your neck today. You did your thing. Okay, you didn't do 10, 11, and 12 on your list, but you got through the first 9, and the first 9 was the tough part. Chill out. You understand what I'm saying? There's that, and then there's you didn't even get past number 2 because you wanted to sit in front of YouTube all day. You know better. What's wrong with you? You understand what I'm saying? I'm just now learning the difference.
So is it possible that, and I hate starting a question off like that because I know the answer. Is it possible that some of us can, I don't want to say give ourselves too much grace, but like regardless of whatever it is that we're doing or whatever it is that we're looking at, we always look at it from hey, I did good. I did good standpoint. And I tend to look at it when kind of like thinking of yourself more highly than you ought to. Is it like where's the balance in that? Where's the balance in like not giving yourself enough grace and thinking more highly of yourself than you ought to?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think the balance comes in with once you get to a level in your life to where you truly understand who you are. When you truly understand if you just BSing yourself. You know what I mean? Like, the amount, if you're actually putting in effort or if you're just saying something to yourself. Now, like I said, once you get to a certain level and you understand and know who you are. But until you get that way, I think that area can be very cloudy for a lot of people. And being in the fitness space, I see it a lot. I see people who are not getting the results that they want, but they're not putting in the effort. But they think that the little effort that they're doing is going to come with drastic results, and it's really not. So I think until they get to a certain level of awareness about it, about themselves, or a certain amount of information, I think that space is going to be very cloudy for people.
I like that, because I was one of those people that knew how to walk around with papers in hand and look busy, look like I was accomplishing something, look like I had been doing something all day and ain't done a thing. And some of us get so used to that we can look the part versus actually be the part that we're claiming we are. And it becomes habitual, and the habit becomes nature. And then we living out our nature before everybody else, and everybody else can see it. Because now it's like, okay, you say you're doing this, but like you said in the gym, you there every day, but you taking pictures. You there every day. You just move the weights from over there to over there. And you wondering why I still look like I did when I first came, because you're not putting in the work. You're not doing anything. So I think our treatment of ourselves, we give that grace a little too often to ourselves. And somebody else come in the gym, you like, come on, push. You got one more. You got one more. Yeah, you a motivator, but you couldn't motivate yourself to get down there and do 2 more, 3 more, whatever. So yeah.
And I ask that because I think that's what we do sometimes. I think sometimes what we do is we're harder on ourselves than we are on other people. And I think in that essence, we're probably living our lives through the lens of our self-critic, but we're probably looking at other people and thinking the best for them. But our inner critic is talking to us, but we don't apply our inner critic to other people. I believe that to be a case as well. But then the other side of that, once I get to the point of moving beyond that, then I think sometimes the other side is that we go to the other extreme and we give ourselves way too much grace. Like we will make excuses for not doing absolutely anything. Or we just want people to we just want to give the appearance that we're doing something. And Garfield, you know it is. You got those guys who go to the gym and make a whole bunch of noise. They got 300 pounds on the rack that they about to bench 300, but they ain't got up under that yet. And they do like Kevin Hart did, start making the noise, clapping, and all that other stuff just so that people can see them, right? And then they ain't
get out the way,
right? They just making noise. Well, I think that's what happens a lot of times. You know, you go from being the extreme to living life through the lens of that inner critic to the other side. Like, I'm about to do this. I'm getting ready to do this. Well, you've been getting ready to do that for the longest, but we ain't seen you put on one thing yet. So I think you'll see that from one extreme to the other. And a lot of times, some of us get here to where we talk about what we're going to do, but there is no evidence of what we talk about. It's just more talk about what we're going to do. And so we got to find that way to be right in the middle, right? Get to the point to where we can manage the inner critic, turn that around, and so that now you're not so much as talking about what you're doing and not doing it, but you're talking about what you're doing it because you are going to do it, and you're going to bring as many people along with you as you possibly can. Nope. Okay, I thought I saw somebody on mute. Okay. I think at this point I kind of want to jump into the growth mindset piece before it gets too late, because I want to unpack the growth mindset. So as we start talking about growth mindset, gentlemen, I want you to kind of give us your points of view, your perspective, your concept. When we say growth mindset, what does that mean?
I think you have the ability to notice when you are self-deprecating, when you notice when you are in that mode where you're not elevating yourself, you're actually holding yourself back, you're actually holding yourself down. And sometimes we can be too hard on ourselves. So when you find that inner critique that's damaging your forward progress, you need to be able to identify it so you can work on it. So you can, I always say, like I tell my kids, if you come into a negative situation and you already know it's negative and you done said it, so in that situation now, find 3 positives. Got to find 3 positives so you can get out that mindset. Because if you stay there, you're going to just pile on and pile on and pile on. And then you having a bad day or a bad this, that, and other. So I think we need to look at the growth mindset as something when we can identify where we are and what holds us back and not allow it to take us there, but overcome that. That's having a growth mindset to me.
Growth mindset is, to me, is the evolution of how you think about things, right? So at some point when I was 16, this is how I thought about women. When I was 23, this is how I thought about women. When now I'm 48, this is how I think about women. Over with new information, am I stagnant on that new information? Am I doubling down on what I already think, or am I open-minded? Am I open-minded enough to bring in new information to allow my mind or my thought process on a particular subject to continue to grow? So that's kind of what I look at is growth mindset. To me, it's like the evolution of your mind in a positive direction.
To me, the growth mindset is if I continue to do this, I'm going to get here, if that makes any sense. You see what I'm saying? Like the more information that I gather, the harder I work, the more I'm in the gym, the more I'm taking care of the bullet points, I'll get here. You understand what I'm saying? And that here is you're here, but if you continue to do what you're supposed to do, you'll end up here. But it's a time thing. It's not gonna happen like right now.
Okay, I greatly appreciate that. So a growth mindset refers to the belief that one's abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication, hard work, and input from others. This concept was popularized by psychologist Carol Dweck through her research, which contrasts a growth mindset with a fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, individuals believe their qualities are static and unchangeable, which can limit their learning and personal growth. People with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities to grow and learn. They tend to persist in the face of setbacks, value effort as a path to mastery, learn from criticism, and find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. This approach fosters a love of learning and resilience, which are essential for great accomplishments. Essentially, a growth mindset creates a passion for stretching oneself and sticking with it, even or especially when things are not going straightforwardly, leading to higher achievement and personal satisfaction. So I wanted to make sure I put that information out and so that we can understand exactly what a growth mindset is in detail. Not that what you guys said were wrong, but I just wanted to kind of give the totality of it because this next question will move us forward as it pertains to a growth mindset. So in your mind, what are some practical ways you can cultivate a growth mindset in areas of your life where you feel most challenged or inadequate?
Step one would be finding out where those places where you feel most challenged and most inadequate are. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know what they are. Figure out what they are first. Then after that, cultivate a plan to offset them if you can't change them or if you can't get rid of them. But I think you have to start by figuring out where you are.
Learn a new skill, right? You challenge yourself and you learn something different or put yourself in a new situation, learning something different, go do something different that is not necessarily in your realm or in your genre of things that you do on a regular basis. You know what I mean? If you don't fish, you know what I mean? Go with somebody, go fishing one day. You know what I mean? So I just think just doing simple things like, learning a new skill or stepping out of your comfort zone and just doing something different or putting yourself in a different situation can help cultivate and help with the growth mindset, because you're going to be exposed to brand new information. You know what I mean? So if I've never fished before and I'm talking about X, Y, and Z, and rolling like, hey man, let's go fishing, brother, and we go fishing, and I may decide that I might really like fishing. You know what I mean? Or even we may even have conversations that may even help cultivate my growth mindset, just by us being in each other's presence. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, learning a new skill and spending time or doing something different that you don't normally do can help cultivate a growth mindset.
I think if I could add anything, it would say, stop trying to be perfect. Some of us, we have a perfect picture at the end of what we're doing, that we hold ourselves to some standard nobody else is holding us to, but we hold that perfect standard, and we push ourselves to the point to where what we're doing is not even fun anymore because we didn't meet our standard. You're not going to be perfect. Certain things may happen. You may stumble, you may fumble, but enjoy being in the moment and slow down enough to just enjoy life and realize that we aren't perfect people. We're striving for perfection.
Okay, I like it. So just to kind of rehash what everybody said, identify your inadequacies, learn a new skill, and stop trying to be perfect. Oh, Chris, you look back like somebody's coming through the door, bro. I was like, get somebody help. No, I'm just so for me, I am going to say learn how to rewrite the code in your head of the programming that keeps playing. And that is a very tall task, right? Learn how to rewrite the program in your head that keeps playing, especially the one that rejects everything that anybody tells you that doesn't sound like the program in your head. If you don't remember anything else, remember that. So get to the point to where you're learning how to accept what somebody else says, good, bad, or indifferent. Doesn't matter if it sounds good. Doesn't matter if it doesn't feel good. But the question that you have to ask yourself, is there any evidence to back up what they're saying? And if there is evidence to support what they're saying, then chances are it is good. But just because you don't want to hear it, don't make it not true. So that would be my point that I would add in there. Listen, I think you guys did a phenomenal job with this conversation. I think everybody in the chat, you did a phenomenal job with your responses. I appreciate everybody's transparency. I appreciate your transparency in the chats as well. But this brings us to our final thoughts. And before you cut me off, before you hit me with the final thoughts, we're going to start with Chris, Garfield, Roland, then with myself. So, Chris, you got the floor, bro.
Overcoming your biggest enemy, yourself. We unpacked a lot today. We talked a lot today, and I'm going to just take away something that I've learned. We need to give ourselves a little more grace than we do. I think that's why there's an unnecessary pressure on ourselves as a society to do stuff, because the inner voice in your head is telling you you're supposed to. It's okay to relax, but it's not okay to be lazy. Sometimes you have to tell your inner voice to shut up, and it's okay. So yeah, if you take anything away from this, just give yourself a little bit more grace. That's my final thought.
Yeah, I like what Chris said. I also kind of want to piggyback off that, and don't let your limiting belief define you. And I think that's very important. You know, just because you have a certain belief about something, that doesn't necessarily make you it doesn't make you who you are. That's just one aspect of the total person that you are. And the other thing that I wrote down was that treat yourself with just as much kindness as you treat other people. And that's for the people who are not always treating themselves with the amount of respect or time or pleasure and different things like that. So some of the things that you do for other people, do them for yourself too. You know, you always going all your way to be there for somebody and have a phone conversation with them. Go and do something and spend some time for yourself. So those are my two things for the final thoughts. Don't let your limiting belief define you, and treat yourself with just as much kindness as you do other people.
I would say in life we have enough enemies and enough problems, so we can't become that to ourselves. So we got to do the work to identify the times when we're the negative naysayer, we're the problem, we're the cloud in our where we should have sunshine, and we need to shift that so that as we shift our thinking and we shift our behaviors, that we also shift our trajectory in the direction we're trying to go. Because we realize that when you realize that you're your own anchor and you're what's holding you back, then and only then can you cut, sling, and move forward.
I remember when I was younger, I would hear certain things like the man is holding me down, and they won't let us get ahead or whatever the case may be. And there is a degree of truth to that, but the larger truth is that you are the one that's holding you down. You are the one that is preventing you from getting ahead. And so, in most cases, what we probably need to do is kind of change the people that we surround ourselves with, change our community, change the environment that we're around. And so, when we do that, you'll start finding that people who have a growth mindset will start challenging you. There's nothing wrong with being challenged. If it makes you feel bad, I get it. Just be transparent and say, I don't like it when you do that. And then they'll stop doing it. But listen, it's okay to be challenged. It's okay to be pushed outside of your comfort zone. You don't have to respond in such a way to where it just kind of reminds us of a, kind of like a preschooler. Like, we got to get to the point to where we get out of these mindsets that have us lash out at people because it doesn't feel good, it doesn't look good, or I think you're thinking bad about me. Nobody's thinking bad about you. Like, and here's the reality of the truth: if somebody else is thinking bad about you, how much of that really affects you in the here and now? So again, get to the point to where you surround yourself with people who want the best for you. Join a community, join this community. Right? We literally want the best for everybody, and we do it through the art of conversation. We do it through webinars. Again, take the self-assessment. I put it in the chat. Once you open it up, look on the right side, you see what says save my seat, and right up under it, there's another button that says continue for free questionnaire. Right? Go get it. It is a free tool that we offer for people who participate in these conversations. You will incrementally get better just by challenging yourselves and answering these questions on your own. If you want to get fancy with it, invite somebody who you know, love, and care about to participate with you. So I think that's key. That said, again, we greatly appreciate everybody for joining us this evening. Again, another great conversation, another great effort by the panelists, another great showing from everybody in the chats. And again, if this is your first time joining us, don't forget to subscribe. Always look in the show notes because we are putting stuff in there for you. As always, we greatly appreciate you. We value you. Have a great rest of your Friday evening and a phenomenal weekend. And don't forget to let the best version of yourself be a blessing to someone else.